which is a program of Dwell Youth Ministry, which is a ministry of First Congregational Church, United Church of Christ, here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. My name is Josh. I'm the youth director here, and I'm so happy to be with you. I want to welcome you to this online space that we're in during this COVID pandemic. And you're welcome here, no matter who you are, no matter who you love, no matter what you believe, no matter what you've done. You are welcome here. And I'm so happy that you're here. This is a program where we've been doing some different things. I've been answering some of your questions. So if you want to send me your questions, that'd be great. But tonight, I'm going to share with you a poem and talk about that poem, the poem that I wrote last week. But before I get there, I have an exciting announcement personally about myself. I got my COVID vaccine on Monday, which is just super exciting, super relief. I had some symptoms afterwards, but I feel great now. And so that is an encouraging step as we move forward through the end of this pandemic, that there is an end in sight. More and more people are getting vaccinated, including yours truly. So I'm so excited to eventually get through this pandemic and move on to the next step so I can be with you in person. Don't get me wrong, these screens are amazing, and they've allowed us to connect despite having to be physically distant. But it's a screen, and I'm kind of tired of them, and I want to see you in person. We did have our first outdoor activity with the youth group this past Saturday, and it was great. And I look forward to doing those some more and eventually gathering indoors in person when this whole thing is done. But for now, we're going to be safe. Okay, back to the topic at hand. I am going to read you a poem that I wrote last week. I personally love poetry, and I think poetry is one of the most powerful tools to transform this world. Poetry is amazing. If you watch the inauguration almost 2 months ago now, there was this poet, Amanda Gorman, who was just phenomenal. The words that she wrote and performed were powerful. And it's not just her. There are so many poets in the world that have helped invigorate our collective imagination as we have engaged in the world that is broken and hard. Poetry has helped us navigate that and really helped make this world a better place. And so I love poetry. And if you're a poet, I would love to hear your poetry as well. Works of arts are some of the most transformative things that we can do here and now. So if you have never tried poetry, I encourage you just to try it. There's not many rules to it. You can kind of just do what you want. There are some rules, but that's okay. Just have fun with it. Put words on paper and see what comes out. So I'm going to read to you a poem that I wrote last week. It's about Jesus. Hear me out. It's about Jesus, and then I'm going to talk about, so I'm going to read you the poem, then I'm going to talk about the poem afterwards to tell you kind of what I was thinking as I put these words on paper. All right, here's this poem. You ready? I remember searching the depths of intellectual discovery, untethered by the bounds of my imagination. I sought God amidst the words of my ancestors, standing on their shoulders to see how far I could see. And what did I see? Naught but my own mind, reflected in infinity, a sea of Empty waters, wave upon wave, nothing. I could not separate the ocean tide from the tears I cried at the loss of who I was and what I thought. But on that sea, I began to see someone walking towards me. Their name was Dave, or was it Carolyn? They reached out their hands, pulling me from the water until I stood on solid land, alive, maybe for the first time. That's a poem I wrote last week to help communicate how I see Jesus. Even though I never mentioned Jesus in the poem. Interesting, right? I talk about in this work my search for God. And for a long time, my search for God was found in academic study, where I read pieces of work written hundreds, if not almost 2,000 years ago, by men and women who were on their own journey to discover God. And I read their words, trying to see if I could find God. And I worked so hard to try to understand this being out there. And it was difficult. I couldn't understand God no matter how hard I tried. No matter years of study that I partook in, I still struggled with doubt. And I felt empty. The more I learned about what I was supposed to believe, the less I actually believed. So I sought God amidst the words of my ancestors, meaning the people who have come before. And what did I see? Nothing. Just my own brain trying to understand what is ununderstandable. And I remember when all I could feel was doubt. And I remember the pain that I felt when I lost everything that I thought I had. Honestly, I was at one point ready to walk away from Christianity because I couldn't make sense out of everything. Questions like, why does God allow suffering? Or how can there be a church that is supposed to be for all people, yet they don't embrace people of all gender identities and sexual orientations? Honestly, I was ready to walk away because it wasn't for me. But then I remembered the love that I felt from people in my life, like Dave and Carolyn and so many others. Not the love that they expressed by preaching to me, by telling me about God. No, just the love that they had for me. There's this poem by an unknown author. It's 3 lines. It's called I Sought My Soul. And this poem helped me reconcile the struggles that I had with my own faith journey. Here it is. I sought my soul, but my soul I could not see. I sought my God, but my God eluded me. I sought my brother, and I found all 3. See, when I was trying to understand God by understanding a belief system. I lost it. But when I tried to understand God by loving my neighbor and by being loved by my neighbor, that's when I found the divine. It wasn't in a belief system that I believed. No, it was in love that I believed, the love that I had for others and the love that others had for me. That's what brought me back into the faith. That's Jesus loved me through the love of people like Dave and Carolyn. And that's what this poem's about. How I found Jesus by looking into the eyes of my neighbor. So I'm going to read to you the poem that I wrote again. Hopefully you can see it with new eyes and new understanding as to why I wrote it and what some of these words mean. You ready? I remember searching the depths of intellectual discovery, untethered by the bounds of my imagination. I sought God amidst the words of my ancestors, standing on their shoulders to see how far I could see. And what did I see? Naught but my own mind, reflected in infinity, a sea of empty waters, wave upon wave of nothing. I could not separate the ocean tide from the tears I cried at the loss of who I was and what I thought, but on that sea I began to see one walking towards me. Their name was Dave, or was it Carolyn? They reached out their hands, pulling me from the water until I stood on solid land, alive, maybe for the first time. That's the poem. I hope you enjoyed it. Honestly, I would love to hear your poetry. Maybe we can do a poetry night one of these nights, either in person or on Zoom or something, because I think it's a powerful tool to communicate ideas and understandings that are hard to communicate. So I hope that was good. If it wasn't, don't let me know. I have a sore ego. Don't. I'm just kidding. I hope it was good. All right, y'all. I love you so much, and I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the now. Each of you are amazing, and this world is a better place because you're here. So thanks for being here. You're awesome. All right, y'all. Peace.